So recently, Nike decided to come out with this Just Do It ad with Colin Kaepernick, and everybody flipped out. However, following day, online sales up 31%. According to Apex Marketing, all the exposure Nike got on social media, TV, radio, made them $163.5 million. Was it a right move or was it a bad move? You know, so many people started asking me about Kaepernick, and I said, you know what, I don't know if I want to make a video about this or not, but you know what, let me just make the video, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that follow Valuetainment, they're kind of in this position right now saying, I feel like the market's going to this corporate social responsibility. Everybody needs to talk about it. Some stat the other day said millennials prefer doing business with corporations. 71% of them like when the company talks about what they stand for socially. It's almost like you're in dinner and you have the one rule, never talk about politics. And dinner starts on Thanksgiving. What do you think about Trump? What do you think about Bernie? I don't think they're doing it. And you're looking, I really want to share my opinions. Should I not, or should I just stay quiet so I maintain a relationship with my family? I don't want to lose customers. What if my customers hate me? I'm going to give you all the perspectives of whether you should cover politics today or not. Some of them you're going to like, some of them you're not going to like, but I'm just going to give it to you the way it is. Number one, so the first thing you ought to be thinking about is whether you're public or small business owner. Now somebody may say, Pat, who cares if I'm public or small business owner? Big difference. Here's why. A private company can say whatever they want to say. This is my business. I'm private. This is what I stand for. It's a family-owned business. We stand for this. We stand for that. And my employees and my salespeople know about it. And my customers do. I'm okay with that. Maybe on the public side, if a CEO gets up and he smokes weed on a podcast, hypothetically, and the stock drops the following week by 10%, maybe that wasn't the best decision. He ought to be free to be able to do it, but it's a publicly traded company, which means shares are tied to investors who are putting money into the CEO making the right decisions. So you may say, so Patrick, are you telling me as a small business owner I should talk about it? It's not what I'm telling you. What I am telling you is a bigger company can afford a risk a lot more than a small company can. Still doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about the things you stand for, but there is a risk for it. Number two, here's the other thing to keep in mind. Times have changed. We're not talking about the 60s, 70s today, or 80s. In 1984, Michael Jordan, when they asked him, they said, hey, so are you a Republican or a Democrat? He says, listen, my customers are both Democrats and Republicans. Why would I say anything about myself politically? They're buying my shoes. I want both of them, right? Wherein today, LeBron James gets up on Twitter and he says, hey, chump, hey, you know, you're such a bum. He never really said he was going to come in the first place. And he gets 600,000 retweets, whatever the number was when he did that. And he's looked at as what a social leader. You couldn't do that back in the days. Back in the days in 1994, before there was Steph Curry, there was Chris Jackson. This guy would hit three-pointers with his eyes closed. And then one day he came out and he said, I'm a Muslim. And when we would do the national anthem, he would hold his hands out like this. He wouldn't put his hand on his heart, right? He wouldn't interview with women. And everybody said, oh my gosh, look what this guy's doing. David Stern, possibly the greatest commissioner the NBA ever had. That was a conflict. 2 years later, his career's over. Today, Colin Kaepernick comes out. He does what he does. He takes a kneel. Next thing you know, he gets kicked out of the NFL. And I believe, in my opinion, this wasn't the NFL owner's fault. This wasn't anybody's fault. The biggest fault for me is Roger Goodell, because he didn't address the issue right off the bat, because he was worried about renewing his $200 million 5-year contract with his private jet that he wanted. What's the point? Sharif Abdul-Rahim doesn't get a contract with Nike because it was about being safe. No social media. Colin Kaepernick signs a multi-million-dollar contract and comes out and says, just do it. Number three, it has a lot to do when you share your opinions on what side of the aisle the media is in. Meaning, if the media is on the left, 80%, you may not want to go against liberals and Democrats because they're going to attack you all out. If it's on the right, you may not want to go against the right because they're going to attack you all out. Today, media favors Democrats, which means anybody like LeBron that comes out and says something about Trump, he's seen as a social leader. If anybody comes out and says anything about Obama, there's a lot of different words you can use for somebody like that, right? If he says anything about Obama, because media is going to take the Democrat side. So you also have to keep that part in mind when you're coming out knowing who your enemy is going to be. Number four, here's the other part to be thinking about today with social media. Almost everybody is naked today. What do I mean by this? You post anything in social media. I could go on 20 different posts that you've had and pretty much figure out Whether you're a conservative, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're not. It's pretty much not hard to figure those things out. When I'm talking about social issues like corporate social responsibility, is you coming out and saying, I don't agree with what Trump did with banning refugees coming here, and he said this, and hey, we are going to hire 10,000 refugees. You know, our name is Starbucks, and we're going to do this. That's what we're talking about. But as far as political, if you get to a point where you're so worried about having everybody find out what you really are, then you're going to have a big problem because you're not being yourself and you're not going to enjoy building a business. So regardless, everyone's pretty much going to have an idea which way you lean politically. Number 5. So listen, anytime it comes down to making decisions like this, the big mistake that a lot of people make is when they come out without thinking about what they support. Hey, everybody's saying Trump sucks. Let me just come out and say it. Everybody says Obama this. Everybody. So you're not really saying what you're thinking about because it's not thought out. That's when we make the mistake. You have to sit back and talk to yourself, your board, some counsels, and say, here's what I feel about this. I want to come out, talk to the attorneys, talk to your advisors, knowing what the worst case scenario is. Because the worst case scenario, you got to know, here's what could happen. You could come out and take a big hit for it. People hate you for it. There's a bunch of negative articles written about you, and it could lead to you actually going out of business. That is actually a possibility that you have to keep in mind. That is the worst case scenario. Having said that, the best case scenario is the following. You come out and you stand and you tell your position. Here's where I stand. Here's what I disagree with. Here's what I agree with. And moving forward, we're going to focus on X, Y, Z. And when you do that, it doesn't mean you won't get backlash. You will. But the best case scenario is all of a sudden you have a loyal customers, believers, true believers all around the nation, possibly all around the world that want to buy your product because they know what you stand for. Number 6. So you know the big question people ask nowadays is, should I build my own brand and my company's brand? Which one should I build? And the idea is what? In today's world, people want you to build both brands because you have the business brand and you have your brand. So let's talk about your brand. What is really behind your brand? Is it just, today's a great day to drink coffee? I woke up today and I'm a LeBron James fan. You know, I like, juice. I like my food this way. It's not just about what kind of food you like, take a bunch of selfies. What do you really think about? What are your beliefs? That's the brand. I mean, Valuetainment, you're going to get a chance to find out what I believe in. Some of you guys don't like it. So I don't like the fact that this guy's all about capitalism and entrepreneurship. But that's where I'm at. It's what I believe in. That's your personal brand. That's your business brand. So what's the point here? The risk today you take is 2 risks. One risk is the risk of you coming out and everybody says, I can't stand the fact that this guy believes in X, Y, Z. But you know what's the bigger risk? That you come out and nobody thinks about you and you become irrelevant. And number 7. Here's the other thing to be thinking about. This isn't something you can wing and come out and say, here's what we think about this. I mean, Nike. Do you think Nike just came out one day after Kaepernick went through what he went through and then they made the video? Look how long it took before they did the commercial. It wasn't a month after he was going through his kneeling the first time he did it. It took a while. You don't think they had focus group, people sitting and saying, we should do, we shouldn't do it? You don't think they went through with advisors? You don't think Nike sat down and asked themselves who their ideal customers are that buys shoes from them? So when people came out and said, I will never buy a Nike ever again, said a 62-year-old man that hasn't bought a Nike for 20 years. And all the other people that buy Nikes went and bought more Nikes. That's why they went up. Now, on the complete opposite side, Pepsi sees Black Lives Matter. And we're going to capitalize on this. Let's go get Kendall Jenner, who is so connected to middle America and low income, right? I mean, she is fully connected to it. And they do this commercial with Kendall Jenner, who takes her wig off in the commercial. They probably didn't even know they did this. She throws the wig to an African-American girl, which makes 0 sense for her doing that, and walks out and gives a Pepsi to the cop while the other girl is shooting the camera saying, don't shoot. Waits to drink it and everybody's happy. And by the way, on top of everything else that Pepsi did, they lost $100 million of media buy. Gone. So now you may be watching and saying, Pat, I don't really understand what you're saying with this point. Are you saying for me to do it or not to do it? Here's what I'm trying to tell you. Nike, unlike Pepsi, knew in advance when they execute this commercial who's not going to be happy with them, and they're okay with that. They were fully aware of it. They knew people were going to say, I'll never buy Nike ever again. They knew it. And they're okay losing that. But they also knew, on the other hand, the people that are buying from them are going to double down and become true believers. While Pepsi, on the other hand, came out and said, here's what we stand for, but they completely missed it on execution, and they ended up offending people and building the best commercial for Coca-Cola instead of themselves. Look, some of you may be watching this right now getting uncomfortable saying there's no way in the world I'm going to get out there and talk about whether I like Trump or not. That's not what I'm saying. There are a lot of companies that for their fulfillment of CSR, corporate social responsibility, they may be contributing to certain charities locally that matter to them. They may be doing certain things for foster homes, breast cancer awareness month. That has nothing to do with politics. Your customer just wants to know what you stand for. By the way, none of this stuff is going away. Listen, none of this stuff is going away. Social media is not going away. Everyone's going to say their opinions. So if you don't say it, no one's really going to know what you stand for. By the way, made a video a couple weeks ago titled, Why College is a Scam. You don't think we got heat on it? I have employees that work with me with college degrees. They watched it, but we took a stand. This is our current system. This is our current belief system with college education. If you haven't watched it, click on this link to watch the video.